Introduction to cybersecurity. First of all, my introduction. I'm Aviral Kaushik from 12th Science A, and I'll be taking this session on introduction to cybersecurity. So let's start with the question. What do you mean by security? What is it that, how do you define being secure? Anyone? I know you guys are not interactive, but at least try. How do you define being secure? Just try.
Like in general, or you mean cyber?
In general, it can be with respect to your house, your phones, your laptops.
Being comfortable with the people you're around and not being invaded.
That's a physical aspect of being secure. That you are with your friends, you know that nothing wrong will happen. That's one aspect. Yes.
Or maintaining your privacy.
Sorry?
Or maintaining your privacy.
He says by maintaining your privacy.
One at a time, yes.
He says
By
by maintaining your privacy.
Still not.
By maintaining
Do you
your
have
privacy.
mic to speak up?
By maintaining your privacy.
Is privacy, right? Yeah, so privacy is also an aspect. And how I will define being secure is that I am living in a home and nobody is able to trespass on my property, right? That is being secure. I have cameras, I have a dog, I have door locks. So that all these components, all these things ensure that I'm secure, right? So let's take an example here. We have three buildings. The first one, the second one, the third one. The first one has a window on the first floor, the second one on the second floor, and the third one on the third floor. Suppose I'm a burglar or you are a burglar. Which building would you pick to get into? First one. And why is that? It's easiest to get into. The amount of time and energy and your resources that it will require are comparatively less than those two buildings right there. Yes, am I right? Yes. But suppose that the first building is not there, then which one would you pick? Second one. So this applies to all the buildings until you are not left with any one but just one to pick, right? So being secure is relative, but still you cannot be completely secure. You can only be secure to some extent. Yeah, no one can be completely secure. You can only be secure to some extent. You can never attain the maximum level of security for yourself or for your device. Because even if with presidents we see there are bodyguards, there is this parade and all, but still there are assassination attempts, right? So no one can be completely secure. Security, what is security? Security is all about raising the bar. So what we just saw in that example is that there are three buildings. The first owner has a window on the first floor. Is that right? Is it correct with respect to security? No, it's not keeping it secure. The second building, the third building. Which one was the most secure building? Third one. So security is all about raising the bar. So suppose you have a neighbor, and your neighbor, there's a burglary, and in your house, not in your neighbor's house. So somehow that low-key tells you that your house is not secure enough, right? The burglar chose your house over your neighbor's. So what is it exactly telling you to do? To make it more secure. And how do we do that? By raising the bar. And how do we raise the bar? Blank. We raise the bar by installing security cameras. We try to copy our neighbor or doing something more exclusive than him. Like I'll keep some dogs, I'll keep a guard, I'll do some stuff, I'll take some measures, right? So as I somehow raise the bar, and to raise the bar we take certain measures, and those measures I already told you. Installing cameras for your home security and setting up passwords, fingerprint ID, face ID on your Macs, PCs and mobile phones. So now we'll be discussing security with context to technology, with respect to your Macs, PCs, mobile phones, laptops, right? So it turns out that if we use passwords, we humans are not at all good at picking up passwords. According to 2019, the most used passwords were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You see a pattern here. This one's longer than the word QWERTY. If you have a US keyboard, you might have seen this word on in the top right corner of your keyboard, right? Then the word password. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then adorably, I love you. And if you think that you're being cute putting this password as your phone's password, Then there are other people as well who think that they're being cute too, right? So it's not a big deal to crack this password. Then 11111 123 123. But we observe a pattern here. What's that pattern? What's the pattern? Very common numbers indeed. So you just see that there's no special combination here. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is what we learn from the start of our education, right? In the first class, we are introduced to numbers, and we know that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the series that we have to follow. So it's quite common. But still, there's a pattern that you're not able to see or you're not able to recognize. It's in front of your eyes. Yeah?
All the characters are consecutive.
All the characters are consecutive. That's the same thing, but just in a different language. But yeah, that's the point. All the characters are consecutive.
It's all simple.
It's all simple. So that comes in the series. The pattern is, first of all, let me ask you this question. When you make a new password on a website, for example, Chrome, it prompts you to use a different, to use a more character length password, right? If you put a 6-character password in, it tells you to, have more characters to make the password strong. It tells you it's not strong enough. It tells you to use uppercase, lowercase letters, right? It does. So people who had these passwords might have faced the difficulty of having a password length. I might have faced this prompt. So this person might have faced the prompt of having a password that is minimum 6 characters. So he kept this password. The person below this might have, he might have had a prompt for, having a 9-character password. So he has this password. Right. So these all depend on the situation and, and the password that you want or you're comfortable with in the given criteria. So now we'll be discussing brute force attacks. It's related to passwords. It's actually related to only passwords. But what is it? Any familiarity with the topic? With this? No one? Okay. So let's suppose you have a 4-digit passcode. Right. So how do you know that it's secure or it's not secure? How do you know?
Yeah. Because we only know what's the password.
That's one thing, that we only know what's the password, but still, how do we know that it's secure enough to keep ourselves safe from thefts or from data stealing? Yes? Sorry? The app tells us, okay. Yeah, the app prompts us that it's not a strong enough password. That's when we use online platforms, websites. But what if I'm setting a passcode for my phone? Then how does it tell us? Yes?
It should be unpredictable.
It should be unpredictable, right? And it's the same way of saying that the password is just known by us and other people have to guess, right? Because if I have a 4-digit password, I have I have many possibilities from which I can have a password. The permutations of different passwords or combinations. So if I have a password, say 2139, so it will from the hacker or the adversary will start from 0000 to it will take him time to come to 2139, right? So it's keeping us secure, but not to that extent. But we'll discuss that later. So what brute force attack actually means is, it means that someone who's out to get you is attempting to crack your password or to get your data. This is what brute force attack means. What happens in a brute force attack is trying out all the possible combinations of a passcode. I just told you this, that in order to get to the actual passcode, you have to try out all the possible ones, right? Because you're not having dreams of the passcode, and you won't be able to guess it in one try, right? You have to go through all the ones, right? So also, yeah. So now coming to passcodes again, if you have a 4-digit passcode, how do you know? How do you know that the total number of possible combinations for this passcode is this, the number? How do you know the number? How do you determine this? Yeah, but how do you calculate this? This is just guesses, right? From 0000 to 9999, that's 9999 passwords, but that's not it. You're short of the answer. That's one way to calculate, but it's not accurate enough because you're making a mistake. And even I make that mistake. It's very common, but if there's a way, how would you do that? Right, so I'll show you. So first of all, I asked you this question: how many 4-digit long passwords are possible? So here are the options: 4, 90, 9999, 10,000. Not sure. Yes.
10,000.
10,000. And how did you calculate that? How do you know the answer?
0, 0, 0.
0, 0, 0, 0. As in, I still don't understand. How did you like do the math?
All the from 0001 to 99999 to the 9.
Okay, so you took all the possible combinations in series, just like numbers, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you took all the random generations from 0000 to 9999. Okay, that's one way, but still it's not accurate enough. So indeed the correct answer is 10,000. But how is it 10,000? How do we calculate it mathematically? Because you won't be just posed with this question that how many 4-digit passwords are possible. You may be posed with this question: how many 8-digit passwords are possible?
10 raised to the power 8.
Yeah?
10 raised to the power 8.
10 is to power 8, exactly. So in order to calculate a 4-digit long password, we all know that if we take the first digit of the 4-digit password, we know that there are 10 possible values for the first digit, right? That is 0 to 9, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 10 values for a digit, right? So if we have a 4-digit password, what we'll do is 10 possible values for each digit. That's 10 raised to the power 4. That gives us 10,000. Similarly, we do that for other passwords as well. Right. So this is the method of calculating the number of possible passwords. And brute forcing, we discussed earlier. It can be done with it can be done through two methods. One is manually, and one is either by writing a code or a software, or using some other third-party tools. But why is it not done manually? Because if you observe that inputting a password does take time, and if you have 10,000 possible value, 10,000 possible passwords, and if you type one password at a speed of one password per second, then also it's going to take you 10,000 seconds, right? And that's long. That's long enough. So how do we do it if not manually?
Using a software.
Using a software, right? So this is the software that we commonly write to guess a password. So I'll explain the code, then we'll run this code on our setup. So from string import digits. So this is a language called Python, right? It's very common in the world of cybersecurity and artificial intelligence, especially cybersecurity. And this is somewhat the base of computer science as well. So from string import digits. Assume string to be a country. So you import certain things from a country. For example, from England you're importing a jeans brand, right? Or from US you're importing a car, right? So similarly, from string we're importing digits. This is a library in Python. This is called a library. Here different values or different data values are stored. For example, digits, alphabets, or special symbols. But now I need only digits right now. So what I'll do is I'll import digits. Then from itertools, import product. Itertools is a library where all the mathematical operations are stored. For example, product, division, addition, subtraction. So then we write the next code for passcode and product. Now this line, why are we writing this line? Can anybody explain?
What should be the result in the box and that?
Exactly. So how do we calculate the result? In which format do we need the result? So for passcode and product, we need all the 10 values for each digit in product, right? So we take the passcode and product. Why are we writing digits here?
Because we need 4.
We need 4 of them. That's the repeat function. But still, why are we using digits?
Because we need to find out.
We need to find out the digits. So it's quite basic here. And then but after these 3 things, my code is almost complete. It will, run all the program. It will generate all the possible passwords. But still, I won't be able to see it until I use the function called print. Okay. So print, what does it do is it provides us with a visual representation of the things that it's collected in the background. Right. So if it has collected all the possible passwords from 0000 to 9999, then how will it show us? Okay. So this function here generates a visual representation of that. So let's go ahead and run this program. Let me refresh the site. This is the tool that I use for writing programs, because I can use the tools that are already there on my laptop, but they are not fast enough. I need the speed, right? So I use this online tool, CS50 IDE, right? So here we have a code, the same code that was there in the slide. So how will we run it? It's in a file called crack.py. Crack I've used for the word like brute forcing away, cracking passwords, right? So now I'll write I ran into an error. Okay, so the error is fixable. Yeah, so I had a small error, but now it's fixed. So I ran the code. What it did was generated all the possible passcodes and then printed it in a list form. Right. So how long did it take me? Seconds. So exactly. So if you have a 4-digit long passcode, it's not safe enough. It's not secure enough. Right, because it can, it just took me like a second to get all the possible values, and if I had a phone plugged in, it would have taken a second, just a second, if it took 2 seconds, right? Because it would have stopped in between. For example, if my password was 5413, so it would have stopped in between. The list would have ended at 5413. It would have taken relatively much less time. Going back to a slide. No. Okay, let me explain a new concept to you. These are just digits. How can we be more secure in terms of a password? By using alphabets. Sorry? Upper case and lower case letters, right? That's what we're trying to say. Yeah, so using alphabets, and that was also case sensitive. Case sensitive is using uppercase and lowercase passwords together. So if I introduce here, we'll close this. So we have digits here. Now I want to import alphabets as well. So in coding terms or in computer science world, we call alphabets as ASCII letters. Right. ASCII letters is the term for alphabets. So I'm going to import ASCII letters here. And the same thing I'm going to, because I need it to be printed with the passcode. Right, so I'll write the same thing with digits here. In addition, because I need digits and alphabets added together. So I'll add them. And it's done. So hopefully I don't run into some error. I did run into an error. ASCII letters. Let's see. Yeah. So now what it's doing is it's printing all the possible passwords, but with letters included. And if it's quite small to see, is it fine now?
Yeah.
It's visible, right? So now we can easily see that it's 0, G, J, like we have all the alphabets and numbers here. So is it making us more secure?
It is.
It is, right, because the number, the 4-digit passcode that had only digits in it took only 5 seconds to print out all the list. But now it's still going on and on and on. It will go for another 5 minutes.
There
Right.
are more possible outcomes.
Yeah, there are more possible outcomes, exactly. And how is that possible? Because previously in the 4-digit passcode, we had only 10 possible values for each digit. Now we have 62 possible values. And if you ask how 62, 26 letters, uppercase and lowercase, that makes them 52. And plus 10 added numbers, right? So that gives us a total of 62. So now we have 62 possibilities for each digit. That is like printing 62 times 62 times 62 times 62. So that's pretty long list even going on. So let's close that here. But still, there's still scope for improvement. So, security can never be enough. Can never be secure in the complete sense. So how can I? Sorry. Special characters.
Increasing the length of the path.
Exactly, increasing the length of the characters and introducing special characters. Right. So that makes us more secure. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to write the code for that now, but because it will take us more time. But I'll just introduce the concept. If you use longer passwords, there's a downside. There's a catch. What's the downside?
It is more possible that you forget them.
Forgetting the passwords, hard to remember. Right. So let me go to the slide here. Yeah. So this question I'll be asking you shortly, but so we tend to forget passwords. If we have a long enough password that we're not able to memorize, or say we have an 8-digit password, there's a downside to that. That is that we're not able to remember it. Right. So from that we come to the question that how many 8-digit passwords are possible? Take a guess. Right? All the options are there. You can take a guess. D. Right, D. So D is the correct answer. There are 6 quadrillion possible combinations of an 8-digit passcode. This is the total number. So that gives us million, billions, trillions, and quadrillions. 6 quadrillions. And if I sit to input all these passwords to crack someone's phone's password that has an 8-digit long password, and even if my speed is 1 password per second, it would take me 6 quadrillion seconds to get to the correct password, or if it's in between, that's relative. But 6 quadrillion seconds is crazy long, right? Crazy long. So still, it has a downside that first of all it's hard to remember, as well as the upside is that the adversary will probably give up before even trying all the possible passcodes. Because he'll be like, it will take so much time that it's better giving up and trying the next phone that has a lower digit password. Right. So the next topic is, we already did this. Yeah, so what else can we do to protect our data? What are the different features that we see every day that help us to protect our data, or to keep our phone secure, to keep our PC secure? Sorry? Face ID, okay. Face ID, biometrics, and other things, retinal scan, we'll talk about later. But what do you see here?
Someone else is trying. We limit the number of tries.
Yes.
We limit the number of tries. How is it serving us? How is it protecting us?
Because there are millions of possibilities, and if we limit it to 2 or 5, so someone who doesn't know it won't be able to hack us.
Exactly. So it will slow down the adversary, or slow down the person who's trying to hack my phone. So you guys might have been logged out of your phones if you input input your password 5 times. That is the wrong one. You get logged out for 30 seconds. If you do it again, that's a minute. If you do it again, that's a 5-minute penalty. If you do it again 1 hour, and it goes on till it permanently locks you out and tells you to log in with the Gmail or password. Right. So this is a feature called exponential backoff that has been introduced by Google and Apple to slow down the adversaries and to make it more secure, even if you have a 4-digit passcode. Right. So moving on. Why are phone companies doing this? We already discussed, to make it harder for people to get access to it. But even this has a downside. What's the downside?
You may get locked out of your own phone.
The user may get logged out of we may get logged out of our own phone. The user. What's your name?
Aman.
Aman. Good. So the major downside is that if you're trying to make it harder for the adversaries, it's getting harder for us too, right? So is it really worth having this feature? Is it really worth having?
Yes.
Yeah. So who said yes? Okay. Why yes? What's the reason?
Because we can be careful. It might take us a surprise, but we at the end of the day will remember it. But the person
worth the risk.
It's worth the risk. Exactly. So cybersecurity is all about worrying about the risk that you care about more. There are always going to be different threats. For example, even if a long passcode, you are not able to memorize the passcode, you'll probably write it down somewhere, or you will store it in a password manager. So other threats are introduced to us. For example, if you write it down somewhere, other people might have physical access to the password. Right? If you put it on a sticky note on your cupboard or your drawer, people can see that passcode, and it's not secure enough. And if you use a password manager, what's a password manager? That stores all the passwords. For example, you might have seen if you create a new account on some website, Google prompts you for a save password option, right, with username. So that's what a password manager is, but that's an authorized password manager. I'm talking about third-party apps like onepassword.com, passwordsafe.com. So are these safe? These are not safe. Why?
Because they are not secure.
Third parties have access to that. And a new concept that we introduce here is end-to-end encryption or encryption. First, let's talk about encryption. What is encryption? Okay, so what she said, what's the name? Shagun. So what she said is exactly the definition of encryption. So encryption is basically putting in my terms and simpler terms is that the data that's being shared between you and the website is converted into cryptic syntax, that is zeros and ones and brackets and all the coding that I did in that format. So that not an average human or a human who doesn't know about coding or isn't introduced to these concepts cannot decrypt the meaning of that code. Right. So that is encryption, converting your words or your documents into another form that are not very understandable by people who are not introduced to this concept. Okay. So let's see what we have. So for coming back to that that exponential backup feature. So one of you said yes, that it's worth having, right? Who was it? Yeah. So it's actually worth having, but what still, do you really think that the pros and the cons, like the pros outweigh the cons? Do you really think in this case? Yes, but how many cons are there? How many pros are there?
The cons are like many people could get access to my phone. The pros are that many people avoid the chance of getting into my phone. And the cons is that only I'll be not able to have access to it.
Yeah. So this is actually the thing. In cybersecurity, you don't actually weigh the pros or the cons. You consider them equally. So therefore, you have to find that inflection point, that where you know that you have to engineer a good secure system, right? So that it's against the adversaries, but user friendly for the users, for the people who own that device, right? So you have to find that inflection point there where you know that it's good enough for the users and it will protect the users from the adversaries as well. So being secure but not being so secure that even the user can't get into. So I'd say personally that I don't think that it's a feature. This feature is worth using, right? So it's a personal opinion, depends from person to person. So yeah. So if this is not the way to protect your password or use passwords, what other methods might you use? What other methods are there in today's phones, on devices? What other new methods do they come with to secure data? Yes? Fingerprints and
Face recognition.
face recognition, face ID, fingerprint ID, biometrics. Right. So other methods include face IDs, biometrics, and also a recent introduction to cybersecurity, that is retina scanning. You might have seen this function in Samsung phones, at S20 and S20 Ultra, the new models. And all of these different measures that statistically tend not so much uniquely identify us, but uniquely identify us all enough. So what does this mean? The passcode is something that someone else can have. Like if I have 1111, he can also have the same passcode, right? It's not unique. And especially in 4-day passcodes, there are 7 billion people on this planet, so many of them might have the same passcode, right? The common passcode. So something that identifies us uniquely, something that only we have, that is our biometric, our face. But even our face is not that useful in the case that if you have a twin, right? same facial features and everything. So they have access to your phone, and that's the downside of this. Yeah. So the downside is if you have a twin. I just told you, consider a case that you have a twin. So Face ID is not secure enough because you have similar features, right? So someone could just place the phone in front of your face and it would open. This is the second, downside of this. If you're sleeping, because some phones don't have this feature that in order to open your face through Face ID, you have to blink. Not many phones have this. For example, Apple has this and Samsung has this, but not MI or other phones. So someone would just place the phone in front of you and it would open. So that's a major downside and it's much less secure than passwords. Now let's introduce ourselves to a new topic called two-factor or two-step authentication or authorization. So what does this mean? Yeah?
If I know my password,
Yeah, so what you're trying to say is it doesn't entirely depend on something I have, but something that I have to get from the company in order to log in. Right. So that is exactly what it means. Two-factor authentication is a two-step process. That's why it has the name two-step. So two-factor authentication is a defense mechanism against which the adversaries that it doesn't just rely on something, for example, a password, but it also relies on something typically that you have. Right. So using a password is the first process. For example, you try to log in your Google account, you use the password, but still it sends you a prompt on your phone that, which one is this, that matches the number. You get the notification sliding prompt, match the number. So that's the, process of two-step or two-factor authentication. The other steps include, after inputting the password, getting an OTP, a 6-digit OTP on your email or your message, right? Sorry? Okay. So, these are the components or the topics of cybersecurity that are the basics, and this is what the page looks like. Right. You might have seen this. So, this is all that we'll cover today. And if we have a next session, probably do something after this. Other topics. For example, we'll discuss about Zoom and why is it not secure, why is it secure. I'll be taking your guys' opinion. So, for today, it's bye-bye. Thank you for being an excellent audience and being interactive, right? So that's actually good. Now you may get up, you can just proceed. Thank you.